Hi, today we're going to learn about rates. So your objective is to understand rates as division, and this is page 30. All right, well, first of all, what is a rate? A rate is a comparison by division of two quantities with different units. So it's still a comparison and a multiplicative comparison at that. But now instead of comparing the same things like in a ratio, like apples and bananas, they're both fruit. Now you're comparing different units. So here are some examples of rates. $3 for 12 ounces of milk. So your units would be dollars and ounces, different types of quantities. Okay, 50 miles over 4 hours, miles, hours. 16 people in 2 cabins, people, cabins. Okay, now you also have a unit rate. Think about what the word unit means, or the prefix uni. Unicycle, universe, okay, unitard. If you think of, like, for example, unicycle, well, a unicycle has one wheel. So uni, the prefix uni means one. So what a unit rate is, it's a rate in which the second quantity is 1 unit. And the easiest way to find a unit rate is to take your regular rate and divide it. If you divide it, you will get the unit rate, or how much for just one item. So in this case, here's a regular rate, 6 laps in 4 minutes. And if I want the unit rate, as in how many laps for just 1 minute, I could just divide 6 and 4, and I would get 1.5 laps in 1 minute. So I'm going to divide those to show you. And go ahead and divide this with me. 4 goes into 6 once. Add a decimal and a 0. 4 goes into 25 times. So 1.5, that's where this 1.5 came from. And I can actually show you by setting up what kind of looks like equivalent fractions or equivalent rates. So 6 laps in 4 minutes. So how many laps in just 1 minute? So I divide these and it tells me how many for 1 minute. You could also always check your answer. Think about how we can see if two fractions are equivalent. We could always cross multiply. You could do this and see if you get the same answer. I know 6 times 1 is 6, and if I do 4 times 1.5, I'll also get 6. So you can use that method to help check your answer when you're finding unit rates. Okay, so now we're going to look at rate on a table. So let's say I can buy 16 ounces of something for $9.60. Well, what if I want to know how much for just 8 ounces? Well, again, I can, because I'm not just going for 1 ounce, I can't just divide them, but I can look for a relationship. Well, how could I get from 16 to 8? Well, if I divide by 2, I would get 8. So I just need to do the same thing on the other side and divide this by 2. It's like finding equivalent rates or equivalent fractions. Whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So, and remember, it's multiplicative, so I can multiply by something or divide by something, but I can't like subtract 8 and subtract 8. It has to be multiply or divide. Okay, so let's use this space down here for division. 960, and I'm going to divide by 2. Well, that goes in 4 times, which is 8. That goes in 8 times. Don't forget your decimals here, so put it straight up in your answer. 2 times 8 is 16. And the 0 would just be a 0. Okay, so this would be 480. All right, now I can continue the pattern. If I go from 8 to 4, that's also dividing by 2. So I can divide by 2 again. Now if I went straight from 16 to 4, I could divide by 4 and divide by 4. So remember, whatever you do to one, do to the other. So I'm going to just start from 480 and divide by 2. That goes in twice, which is 4. I have a decimal here, so put it in your answer. I bring down the 8. 2 goes into 8 4 times. And I have the 0, so I can put the 0 here, so that would be 240. Again, you probably could do that in your head also. And last one, 4 divided by 2 is 2, so you can divide by 2. Again, half of 40 is 20, half of 2 is 1. So I already know this is going to be 120. And now we have a bunch of equivalent rates. Okay, so now we're going to look at a word problem. It says, if 16 people can fit in 2 cabins, how many cabins would be needed for 112 people? Well, I'm going to set up what's called a proportion, but we're going to use unit rate to actually solve it. So a proportion just kind of means like equivalent rates, okay? Sort of like this. So I know that 16 people, I'm going to put a P for people, can fit in 2 cabins, C for cabins. So I have 112 people. Well, people's on top, so I want to make people also on top over here. And how many cabins? That means I don't know the cabins. So I know that these are going to equal each other, but I'm going to use unit rate. So in other words, just like I did right here, and I divided to see how many minutes did it take for each lap, or how many laps, excuse me, for each minute. Now I can do the same thing. I can divide these and see, well, if 16 people go into 2 cabins, how many go into just 1 cabin? So 16 divided by 2 is 8. So that means, let me use another color, to get from here to there, I divided by 8. Well, then I can, because just like here, I use the same principle, whatever I do to one side, I do to the other. If I want to find how many cabins this would take, I just need to do the same thing. If when I divided these, I got 8 people per cabin, then I would just divide the total people by 8 to see how many cabins that I would need. So I'm going to go from here to here, and I'm going to also divide by 8. So let's do 112 divided by 8. 8 goes into 11 one time, and that's 3, and bring down. And 8 goes into 32 4 times, which is 32. So now I know that I would need 14, would be my missing number here, cabins. So again, I used unit rate because I divided the rate I already knew, figured out how much that would be for just one, and then I could use that number to help me solve the thing that I was missing. Okay, now we're going to look at a way to compare rates. Now this is something I use all the time, especially when I go grocery shopping. It says Kroger sells apples for $2.36 for a bunch of 12 apples. So you can get 12 apples for $2.36. Tom Thumb sells apples for $2.95 for a bunch of 15 apples. Which store has the better deal? Well, you might look at this and go, well, this one looks cheaper, but just because that's cheaper, you're not getting the same number of apples. You're getting 12 apples here, and you're paying a little more and getting 15 apples here. So because they're in different amounts, it's hard to really tell which one's the better deal. So we're going to use unit rate so that we can actually see which one is the better deal. So what I'm going to do is, to do unit rate, we divide. So I'm going to divide the price and the number of apples and see how much does it cost per apple, for each apple. Okay. So I am going to put a K here so I remember that this is the Kroger side. 236 divided by 12. Go ahead and divide that, and then come over to the other side and divide the Tom Thumb. I'm going to put a T for Tom Thumb, and that was 295 divided by 15. So go ahead and divide those, and then check back and we'll see what you got. Okay, now that you've divided them, let's look. So 12 does not go into 2. I put the decimal straight up. 12 goes into 23 only once. So 3 minus 2 is 1, 2 minus 1 is 1. I bring down the 6. All right, now I need to think about this. How many times does 12 go into 116? Now remember, you can always list out your multiples of 12 to help if you're not so great with your 12s. I know that 12 times 9 would be 108. So that would be 9, 108. I subtract 16 minus 8, and I get 8. And I'm going to go to one more spot. All right, 12 going into 80. Well, 12 times 6 is 72. So that'd be close. And guess what? When I subtract this, I got an 8 again. So I know this is repeating anyway. Okay, so I can stop there. So this is technically saying 0.196 repeating cents per apple. Or if I round the 6 up, it's about 20 cents an apple. Okay, so now let's try Tom Thumb and see if it's any cheaper. All right, so 15 doesn't go into 2. I put my decimal here, and it goes into that only once. 9 minus 5 is 4, and that's 1. I bring down. All right, now I need to think about my multiples of 15. 15, 30, 45, 60, 75, 90. Okay, then I have 105. When I keep going, so that'd be 9 times. Because then we have 120 and then 135. So that's 135. And that would be 10 left over. Let's go to one more spot. Okay, 15, 30, 45, 60, 75, 90. That's 6. 90, and when I subtract, I get 10 again. So that tells me it's repeating. So what do you know? Look here. They're actually the exact same price. So which one is the better deal? Neither one. They're the same. So we're going to just write the unit price is the same. Okay? So neither one's a better deal. It doesn't matter where I shop for my apples because really I'm paying the same amount per apple. So they're the same deal. All right. Now, McDonald's French fries. We have a small fry, which is 5 ounces, and it costs $1.19. And we have a large fry, which is 8 ounces, which costs $1.79. So I want to know which of these is the better buy. Now, you might just like to get the large to eat more fries, but I am going to actually use unit price and divide them so I can see how much is McDonald's charging me per ounce of French fry for each of these sizes. And then I can see which one's really the better deal. Okay, so let's start by setting up our problem. Now the amount of money is going to go on the inside just like it did here. Okay, so this is for the small. We have $1.19 divided by 5. And then you're also going to have the large, and you'll have $1.79 divided by 8. So go ahead and divide those two and see which one is the better deal. Okay, now that you've divided, I'm going to divide. That goes in 0 times. That goes in twice. 5 goes into 19 3 times, which is 15. I'm going to go to one more spot. 5 goes into 48 times. So 0.238 cents per ounce, or about 24 cents per ounce. Okay, now let's see for the large fry. That goes in twice, which is 16. That goes in twice, which is 16. And then let's go to one more spot, even though I can compare them already, but just in case. That's going to go in 3 times, which is 24. And I'm going to stop there. I could continue dividing, but I just am going to both, since I have 3 digits on each one, let's just compare now. Okay, well here I have about 24 cents per ounce. And here I have about 22 cents per ounce. So in this case, the large is the better deal. So maybe you can use that to convince your parents to get you a large fry next time because it's a better deal. All right, so again, we have rate and unit rate. Just remember, division is a big part of rates, and keep practicing. See you next time.